Hi, Hunter. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. This is such a, awesome opportunity.
Amazing, amazing. Just to start us off, could you just quickly introduce yourself and let us know where you are in the world?
Yeah, yeah. So my name's Hunter McDavid. I'm a senior at Berea College, and I also am in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm studying outdoor adventure education. I'm a wilderness first responder. I do a lot of different things. I work in the industry.
Oh, amazing. And what are you doing in the industry right now?
I am a volunteer first responder with the rescue squad. I am, that's just like a side thing. And then I also work as a backpacking guide for A Walk in the Woods. And then I'm also working for REI as an associate right now. hmm
Oh, amazing. And you're an OBCR alum. So I'd love to know,
Yes.
yes, love the t-shirt. I'd love to know how you first heard about Outward Bound Costa Rica, and had you heard of Outward Bound before? Like, how did you get into it?
Yeah. So I first found Outward Bound when I was really struggling to find like a study abroad opportunity that fit my needs, as an outdoor ed major. You don't find a lot of opportunities other than through like major programs like Outward Bound. And so I originally went to them, Outward Bound USA, and realized this isn't abroad, this isn't good enough for me. So I Googled study abroad opportunities for outdoor ed, and the first program that popped up legitimately was Outward Bound Costa Rica. And so I immediately was like, oh my gosh. So I called right away and was like, hey, like I didn't even care if there was any fee or anything. I just called right away and I was like, hello, like, um, I think I spoke to someone named Ryan.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my gosh, like you're looking for a study abroad opportunity and you're a what major? And I was like, yeah, I'm an outdoor ed major. And here I am now, like an alum. So he really hyped it up for me.
Oh, amazing. And you joined us actually last year on our spring coast to coast, but then sadly your experience was cut short because of the pandemic. What was that like? What was it like having that experience cut short, having to go home, all of that?
Honestly, you think of goodbyes and you're like, you're never ready for them. But when they come early like that and out of nowhere, it's kind of a shock. And you're kind of, I wouldn't say traumatized, but I would say a little bit in despair, right? Because you're like, oh, like I had another month and a half to go. Like we weren't even halfway through this. We were, doing our scuba phase in Panama, and I was just so stoked to be there. And we were actually in the water when it happened. So it was kind of crazy. They were like Brenna called and we had to go. So I think coming home, I had a bit of a culture shock because I couldn't speak Spanish anymore. Like there was no one to speak Spanish to. And so I was like, what in the world am I going to do? Like I was so sad for like 3 days.
Yeah.
I picked myself up, got a job, got a car, like did things because, COVID was here and I felt like it was going to be here for a long time. And it was. So,
Oh
yeah.
my, yeah, it was like a loss almost because it was such a surprise, having to just kind of return back home and like you said, like just having those few days to kind of readjust from
Oh,
like
yeah.
what was like a very different culture, I'm sure. Was that your first time experiencing like a culture like Costa Rica and Panama as well?
Yes, it's my first time going out of the country. Probably like the second culture I've been exposed to. I had seen an indigenous culture before and been exposed to that, but that was within the U.S. So it's still a little different than when you go out of the country. And so I think for me it hit harder because that was my first cultural experience abroad. And so I was like so devastated. I mean, my family could tell you the same thing. They were like, "Oh my god, we had to cheer him up for like 4 days. Like he was crying all the time." So
Oh man. But once you got back home, you said like you kind of picked yourself up and then started working. So what did you get up to in that time?
so the first thing I did was I joined my local rescue squad. I wasn't sure about it. I wasn't sure how it was going to be in Tennessee, but I really enjoy it. I've been with them for a year now as a first responder. Um, I also got a job at a grocery store for a little while because that was like the only places hiring right now. And so, or at the time. And so I thought that would be a great use of my time. I'd get some, free groceries out of the experience because they were really giving incentives to work at grocery stores right now because they were so overwhelmed. And so I worked at Kroger, and yeah, I really enjoyed my time there. I was there for the whole summer. And I tried to go back to school in the fall, and that didn't go so well because I don't do online very well.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
took
Yeah, we are seeing so much of similar situations with students. They just can't get into the online. They just need that in-person contact. And I guess that's a big part of why you returned this year, this spring, to our Coast to Coast expedition again. What was it like coming back, and sort of what motivated you to return?
Yeah. So I talk a lot about opportunities. I think the biggest thing was opportunity here. And the way I saw this as an opportunity was, oh, this is an opportunity to go back and finish what I started. That
Yeah.
was the story that resonated with me and was like, okay, I need to go do that immediately. Okay. Because I didn't get to experience the Coast to Coast expedition. I didn't get to experience so many other things that we had planned to do.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the big things that I strived for. I think also, like, in a way, it was like returning home for me. Like I like saw it as a second home almost because I had been there for so long. I had spent so much time in Costa Rica on that base, at least half of the program, right? So I felt like I knew everyone. It felt like I returned and did meet some new faces, which was cool. I think that was the biggest experience for me. It was like coming home feeling. I had I had known the place before. It was interesting to see what it was like post COVID. Yeah,
Yeah. You had some unfinished business that you needed to come back.
exactly.
Yeah. And obviously you joined one of our groups that had just started their expedition.
Yeah.
How different was it from when you'd come to us previously? Were there significant differences to the experience?
Yes, I would say numbers of students. Before it was just the four of us. Well, there was five students, and then we had one leave, and so there was four of us at my previous course.
Yeah.
And that was fine. We had accepted that. We had learned to get along. It was really great. I think post-COVID experience with this group, there was like at one point there was 19 of us. I mean, there were so many of us, and to me, that's what I wanted, was more people to talk to, more people to hang out with. Like, you just had so many more opportunities to talk to different kinds of people, and I think that for me that was really kind of awesome because during COVID, like everyone else, I had been at home all the time or at work, and so it was like, you didn't really get to connect with people anymore. And so the first time connecting with people again for me was at this experience.
Yeah, amazing. The dynamic, I'm sure, was completely different.
So
Um,
it shifted so much. Yeah.
yeah. And this was also one of OBCR's first COVID-19 adjusted programs as well. Was that apparent to you? Did you notice like those changes between the programs? Hey.
Sorry, a friend came to visit. His name's
Oh,
Finn.
all good, all good. We love dogs. As you probably know from your visit to OBCR, we have dogs on base all the time.
Yeah, I love dogs. So, I own at home, of course, too.
Yeah. So yeah, those COVID-19 adjustments, like, did you notice those? Did it make you feel safe? Like, how was that for you?
So, coming in, I was vaccinated as a first responder. So I felt like for me, they were super safe. They were even more safer for me because I was vaccinated and I had that opportunity. So I think in a lot of ways, the way that we did a COVID test before, we did a COVID test when I had quarantined. Be quiet. After we had gotten there. Come on, Finley. Come on. Come on. Oh, come on. Go. Let's go. Come on.
Oh.
Okay.
Just want to get involved.
He did not like that. So
They just want to chat. It's all good.
yeah. chat with everyone about OBCR. So they were like, "Oh, we didn't like him being away." No.
Yeah, they had a problem.
uh, but yeah, I would say for me, the COVID protocols. So going back at that, like my flight to Costa Rica, I, felt super prepared. I got an N95 mask. I got what I could in terms of like sanitization. I take my mask off even for a second. I waited to eat all day just because I was like, I don't want to get COVID and spread it. And I just felt so concerned myself. So that also helped, I think, push the when students took it seriously. And that sort of made it even better because we had no COVID exposures, and we can safely say that, proudly say that. And so integrating in the group was the big next step. And so I got onto the campus, I got to the Rainforest Base, and I got my own room. I kept to myself, did some painting, had some fun. Like I just did some different stuff. Took a little class with the group as I social distance with a mask. It was super fun. I met a lot of different people and also kept to myself. So it was like time for both, even though I was in quarantine.
Yeah.
That was new for me as a quarantine student beforehand,
Yeah, definitely. And quarantining in a rainforest space is not too bad. Like surrounded by nature
Like,
and yeah.
a lot of people, like my friends, they were like, "Oh, so you have to go quarantine?" They're like, "What's that like?" I was like, "Oh, I'm going to be on the rainforest base." They're like, "Oh, poor you. You have to be on a space for your quarantine while the rest of us are stuck at home still." I'm like,
Yeah. I have to do it. So
Yeah.
exactly.
So shame, right?
Yeah. So when you came back, you got to obviously do the coast to coast hike and some more certifications and things like that. Could you share with us just some of your top highlights from course, or even just one major one?
So I think one of my first major moments would be when I was riding the van, finally coming to see Bailey and Karina and Carlos,
Yeah.
my instructors before. I feel like we all cried a little bit, like, because it was like, oh my gosh, back, Carter's back. They had a sign waiting for me saying, welcome. Like the students, although there were so many of them, and I felt so intimidated a little bit at first, they quickly all like split up. They're like, wait, we're overwhelming him. Like they knew they were big groups. They were like, okay, we need to divide. So that was a big moment for me, was first getting to Manuel Antonio Base, which I had never been to before. My surf base was completely different. So I got to do some days of surf. It was really awesome. I think that was one of the first major highlights. The second one for me, I would say, for me, would probably be during the Coast to Coast expedition.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to say that it's at the end when they do that, like when they're like super thrilled. I think the end wasn't that for me. I think it was conquering the highest point of elevation at Montañas de los Muertos, I think is what it's called. Death Mountain is what we called it. So, but it's like 10,000 elevation. And we'd gotten to that point. I took a picture because I was like, this is the highest point I've been in a long time. And you think of Costa Rica, you don't think of all the high points. You think of tropical islands. Like when you're hiking in the coast to coast, you really see a whole different side. I just remember coming out, seeing these rolling, beautiful hills, like stuff you'd see in movies. I was seeing it, and it was like, for me, that was the biggest thing, was just seeing so much different terrain. Like I thoroughly enjoyed that.
That sounds great. Yeah, I think a lot of people go into that hike and they're a bit apprehensive because it's such a big chunk of the course. But everyone gains something from it, and you feel like you can't continue, and then you do, and that's like a huge part of personal development and everything that you can take away from that experience.
Yes.
What would you say to students who are considering coming on our fall semester? Like, do you have any advice for them? What would you share with them?
Part of me wants to be like, just do it, but like this, like, if you've ever thought about an opportunity to go travel this is that opportunity because we're post-COVID. A lot of people like to say we're, surpassing the vaccination periods. It's a great time to start traveling again. I would agree with that. I think as a first responder, my recommendation for people is also that it's a safer time than it was before. Despite what's going on in the news media, I think that you should do what's best for you. If there's like the possibility of going to Costa Rica and it excites you even just a little bit, I'd say do it. Because in the end, once that trip's coming up, you're gonna like be counting down the days. You're gonna find yourself eventually going, and you're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, this is so awesome!" And I think that a lot of students, in the end, even if they weren't so sure about the program, or maybe it was their second choice, they end up enjoying it a lot more than they thought they would. And so that's another big thing. I talked to a lot of different students who were like, "Yeah, like this was the only program open, so I came," and I was like, "That's awesome! That's so awesome! Like you saw the opportunity and you went for it." So that's what I say to those who are considering this, even just the possibility of it. Now is a great opportunity. We're not in full quarantine as a nation anymore in the US. So I think that like it's time to finally be free and fly, do what you want to do. It's sad to say that before that we had to encourage people to stay at home and be like, hey, you can't do the things you want to do. We're not doing that anymore. And so I think this is a great time to go to Costa Rica.
Yeah, things are definitely opening up, and yeah, great time to be getting out and exploring outside again.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to kind of finish this up, what's on the horizon for you? Like, what experiences have you taken from OBCR and applying right now, and that you're looking forward to in the future?
Yes. So coming back to Costa Rica the second time really showed me that, it's never, you never have to say goodbye. It's always a see you later. And
Yeah.
that really, I've always recited that in my life. It's never goodbye. It's always see you later. Well, this held true for Costa Rica. And so I really think that although I ended my coast to coast expedition, I still feel like I have some unfinished business there. Like there's some stuff I still have to go back and do. I don't know when I'll do it, but I certainly think that the day will come when I'll return and do something else with Outward Bound Costa Rica. And so that's on the horizon. Like I feel myself draw towards maybe a possible future internship, or maybe it's just a work opportunity. I don't know. But I think in the end, I also have other opportunities. I'm working for this backpacking company in the Smokies. I haven't done my first backpacking trip with them yet. That's coming soon. I'm really excited for it. I also am about to go back to Berea and finish my senior year and finally graduate. And so that's really exciting. Things are coming back into in person. And so that's really also kind of something to be grateful for. Like before, I mentioned my college campus was just strict lockdown, and just like everyone else's, we were online, and it was just so not enjoyable for me. I think a lot of students felt that way, and so I think going back to finish my senior year and hopefully walking across the stage, like that gets me excited. So I think I'm gonna go do that while I can. Yeah.
Oh, that's so exciting. Thank you so much for sharing a bit of insight of what your semester experience was like. And we would love to welcome you back to Costa Rica for sure. Yeah, thank you so much, Hunter. I'm going to bring our recording to a close right now, but yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right.